I want to, because we're now starting to talk about politics, I want to bring into the conversation someone I'm sure everyone has heard of because he, more often than almost any other pundit in the last election cycle, just got it right. And he doesn't need an introduction, but if there's a couple of people that don't know who he is, Carl Diggler, known as the Dig, 30-year veteran of covering national politics. He has an incredible must-read book called Thinkocracy, The Rise of the Brainy Congressman. Carl Diggler, I noticed that you have not tweeted since April after being just on the money throughout this election, and I want to ask you about that, but first, welcome to Intercepted.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. I would say it's an honor, but I'm in a lion's den of harassment, so come at me with your best.
Well, I'm curious because your last tweet was from April. Where are the attacks coming from?
Well, I haven't been able to tweet a lot. I've unfortunately lost my position as a employed pundit. As many did, I got quite a few things wrong in the general election, but I've been hard at work at solving the problems of the nation. Many are familiar with the Fact Friends, my sort of rough and tumble street gang, Michael Smirkonish, Ron Fournier, Michael Barbaro, and myself, where we seek to preserve integrity, honor, justice in the news. But in a more fraught and violent political time, we have to adjust. Now we are Fact Block. Good night, both sides. That's our model. Now, instead of the thuggish violence against the right committed by partisan Antifa and right-wing, almost paramilitary groups, we go at both sides. A lot of people noticed the punching of Richard Spencer. That was actually me. But that day, I also punched D-Ray. Because both sides are increasing partisanship and violence in this country. So, keep your eyes tuned. I may be back in the winners and losers of the week game soon. I may be trying to get on the old horse to reclaim my mantle as the most accurate pundit in America. But we have to stomp out the partisanship in the streets.
I always am sitting with bated breath listening to the analysis of Tom Brokaw when they bring him on Morning Joe. And now that I have you here, I think of it as somebody with the same intellectual heft as Brokaw. And I know that you're not just online, you also are out there in the field. And because of all this talk of Russia, I'm wondering if you could share some reflections of the time you spent in the custody of what appeared to be Russian kidnappers.
Yes. Well, I of course was in Syria to try to it was to redeem myself after a failed pick in the primary. Actually worked because you saw the accuracy I came back with, but I was trying to conduct polls in Syria to see if people thought of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi as a reformer with results, whether Assad had won the week or not. And I was, unfortunately, due to misunderstanding, I was detained by the Shabiha ghost militia and handed over to Russian security forces. And yes, they tried to break me. They wanted a Mark Halperin of their own, a weapon to surpass Mark Halperin. And they made me do screen tests for RT, segments including Chillin' with Ramzan Kadyrov. But I successfully foiled them. I successfully sabotaged my own screen tests, and due to the intervention of my father and Senator Lindsey Graham, they found that they could not get anything out of me. I consider it a compliment that my line producer at RT of Gengi called me the most useless oaf ever placed in the RT studio. And what I picked up from my time with the Russians is that partisanship is not as big of a problem over there, but they do have major problems with civility. And if they can influence our politics through outlets like you, will become even worse. And say goodbye to congressional softball games and, bipartisan outings to see musical acts like the singing senators and rapping reps.
Now, I noticed when you were talking about your gang that you really are a tight-knit circle. Chris Cillizza wasn't on that list. I would think that you and Chris have a lot in common, the same kind of searing, nuanced analysis, that we've come to love from Chris Cillizza now that he's on CNN. That just kind of says Carl Diggler to me also, like Ron Fournier, you, Why isn't Saliza in your inner circle?
Saliza, there are very few reasons why you can get kicked out of the Fact Friends. We're a very freewheeling, hard-knuckled group. One of the original gangs. But he did something unheard of. He came after a made newsman by sending his hitman, Caleb Borchers, to say I was not more accurate than Nate Silver. And you know what? I don't wish Chris ill. He's obviously having a lot of fun at CNN. He did have that, I have to admit, great tweet about Dana Bash's shoes. But he is dead to me as a friend and a newsman. And I don't care how strident and trenchant his analysis is. I don't care how smart he is talking about how Ivanka won the week. He's no longer my friend. He's no longer a fact friend, most importantly.
Now, I know I've heard rumors that you're working on projects that we may hear about later, but I'm just wondering, since you're so on the inside of what's going on in the media today, your analysis of the nuptials of Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe.
Well,
did you go to the wedding?
I was not formally invited, but I was there. But it was, even in a time of rising partisanship and a country more divided than ever, Applebee's America is falling apart, unfortunately. Something beautiful can still happen. And I think that the wedding of Mika and Joe gave everyday Americans who feel downtrodden and sad, it gave them something to look at and be proud of. That's really what makes us great, is when a newsman and a newswoman can look at each other, especially one like Joe, who has been through the crucible of divorce and family court, to say, I will not let this break me, and try again. And I think that's a lesson for us. We're going through a very bad alimony proceeding right now. But nothing is more damaging to say that we will never find our own bride again. We have to just keep going on Plenty of Fish, Chatterbait, all the dating websites, and find our match.
All right, Carl, we're going to let you go, but what can people expect to hear from you in the coming months and years ahead?
Well, if you ride the A and C train, no longer L train due to construction, you can find me doing Showtime punditry. Tips are encouraged but not necessary. I stand in the middle of the car and give winners and losers of the week. When I can find a outlet in public, I will tweet, but fortunately cannot schedule anything of that nature now. But big things may be in the works. We will see in the coming months.
No, any chance of you replacing Sean Spicer?
I would work in an informal advisory role. Like, I think that something Spicer could do is he could sort of tell some jokes. Like, something he could say is like, wow, is it hot today, or is it just the partisanship? I think that would sort of ingratiate towards him towards people, but I would not. That would break my newsman's pledge to work for the White House.
All right, ever the man of pure integrity, Carl Diggler. Thanks for calling in here on Intercepted.